Welcome to the Next Level Casino Careers Show, a series highlighting industry tips and insights from the best minds in the casino and hospitality industry. Enjoy the show.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the show today. Joining me today is Steve Neely. He is the general manager of Rolling Hills Resort and Casino in Northern California. He's also a good friend of mine. And so, we're very happy to have Steve on the show today. Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Peter, I'm honored to be here. I'm waiting to find when the best mind is going to show up between the two of us.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my doors open. I'm waiting for that person to Steve, I've known you for many years now, but for those out there listening that don't know much about you, let's start by talking a little bit about your property and, Rolling Hills Resort and Casino. I've actually been there and visited. What a great property. But I my description of it will do no justice. I was only there for a couple of days. Can you give the audience just sort of a little snippet on, what your property is about?
Sure. Well, first of all, we're located about halfway between Redding and Sacramento. And we're right off the I-5. A decent golfer could hit I-5 with a 3-wood from our front porte-cochere. I can't, but a decent golfer could. I'd slice it, of course. We're just now coming out of what has been just an absolutely extensive renovation and expansion. We literally doubled our facility size. We added a number of chain restaurants. The purpose, of course, being our access to I-5. We felt like familiar names might pull a few more extra people off the freeway. And so we went through that. And literally every guest facing part of the property has been changed. And when I first got here, it was more of like a hunting lodge kind of feel. And, it had been that way for 18 years. And now I think that we've got a very modern feeling building. And the other thing is the original footprint, we had 850 games on a footprint for 550. So it was extremely crowded. We now have 900 games. And so we didn't add a ton of games. We just positioned them in a way that makes it more comfortable for our guests. And then on top of that, we added an amphitheater, an outdoor amphitheater that has just been amazing. We can get up to about 7,500 people out there. Last year, we opened the year with Snoop Dogg. We closed with Pitbull. So it was the year of the dogs.
I love that.
And we had some great shows in between and obviously getting ready for next year as well. And then we also have, golf course, which was designed by John Daly, which means par threes, you need a driver. And then we have an equestrian center, which is kind of an interesting thing. I don't know of another tribal property that has an equestrian center. And it does really good business for us. And we're kind of the largest complex like that between Sacramento and Oregon. So we get a lot of big shows out there as well. And then 2 hotels that were completely remodeled during the expansion. A travel center. We're now selling, oh my God, I can't even tell you how much fuel we're selling a day now. And it's been a lot of fun, a lot of change in the last almost 5 years.
Sounds like there was a lot that has changed and evolved since I was there. So it looks like another trip might be in store for me. And we'll talk a little bit about your approach to modernization and stuff later. But before we do that, let's talk about your origin story. Like Steve Neely, you gave us background now on your property, but this is where we love to talk about, what were the origins of Steve and how did you get into this crazy business? And, what kind of led you to this path to be the GM of this great property in Northern California? How'd you get there?
Well, I'm from Southwest Colorado, which means even in bad years like this, I'm a loyal Broncos fan, and that hurts a little bit this year. But I grew up in Southwest Colorado, and in that area, there's not a lot of opportunities for young people unless you own your own business. And most of the businesses are hospitality related, so restaurants, hotels, things like that. Not exactly a opportunity to really expand your personal situation unless you own one of those. And so to kind of work my way through that space, I went in the military to get enough money for college. Unfortunately, the wrestling, baseball, football scholarships didn't quite come my way. It may be the fact that I'm not very big, fast, or have incredibly incredible jumping abilities or anything. So I ended up needing to utilize the military for my education, which ended up being an amazing experience, and I'm very happy to have done it. And then I ended up doing it. I ended up in radio and television for a bit, and got a real great understanding of marketing in that capacity. And my degree was in marketing, business and marketing. And then I just kind of got burned out in that field. I went to work for my best client, which happened to be a car dealer, and I was doing all the advertising and marketing for the dealership, but I could also earn a little extra money just selling selling cars. Well, one Saturday I came in to help the guys out, and I looked out in the lot, and I saw the casino general manager wandering around out there, and I knew him from my radio days. And so I just went out, struck up a conversation with him. I ended up selling my car, and and we had he spent about 4 hours at the dealership. I think he was trying to just stay away from home that day or something, and just needed a break. Hung out with us, and didn't think anything of it. And then about 4 months later, I saw that the local casino that he ran, they had posted for their director of marketing position. And in that market, the casino is a huge deal. It pays real well. It's they have money to spend on marketing, which, as a marketing guy, you're always excited about that. And so I had submitted my resume before, so I just sent a note over to the director of HR, which happened to be his wife, and she ended up calling me like right away and said, "Hey, Renee wants to visit with you. Can you come by?" And so it went through the process. I ended up getting the job there. And so I always tell people, how do you get in the casino business? Oh, you sell cars to casino general managers. But the reality is you network, and you learn, and you figure out how to connect all the different dots that are out there. And then from there, that was entry level, small property. And throughout the years, I've progressed on the marketing side to larger properties. And then I got to a point where I kind of hit the pinnacle, if you will. I've been at a lot of big properties and done marketing with them. And I was trying to get into the GM space, and I was facing the challenge of, well, you're a marketing guy. Marketing guys aren't GMs. And so I kind of took a step back and was like, well, how do I level the field? And that's when I went and I got my MBA at Arizona State. And that really softened that comment, because now it was legitimate. It's like, okay, marketing guy, the MBA, that must mean you can read reports. Well, never mind the fact I can probably read data better than most finance people, because that's what I've done for 20 plus years, looking at all the different data reports. But once I got that, it opened up all the doors. And I got promoted to COO at Casino del Sol, which is where I was at the time. And then from there, I was able to move into this position. So that's the 5-minute, 3-minute version of how I got here.
Well, that's a fantastic story. And first of all, thank you for your service. I just recently learned that you were in the military earlier in your life. I didn't know that. So I really appreciate the fact that you did serve for our country. So thanks for sharing that. And I didn't know that led into that early part. So I learned a little bit something about you this morning. So thanks, Steve, for that. What would you say during your career? Did you have any people in particular that were mentors to you or extremely influential in sort of your development as an executive? And what kind of characteristics did they have, or maybe you learned from them? For the people out there wondering, okay, so I'm in that stage of my career. How do I find a mentor, or how do you know when there's someone who has mentor material? Do you have any thoughts on that or experiences you could share?
Yeah, I do. So, I got into the casino industry. My real background that prepared me for this industry was radio. And radio is just a promotion machine. Every month, every week, every day, you've got stuff going all the time. You're doing remotes, you're doing on-air promos. It's always moving. And so I had a good understanding of how to structure promotions, but there's a lot more to casino marketing than just promotions. And I could do advertising because I had sold that for years. There's a lot more to the business. So I was a voracious reader, and I read everything I could come in contact with. And one of the people who I ended up reading a lot of, two people, John Romero and Dennis Conrad. And, John Romero, was a legend in the industry, and he came up through times, and he helped really shape my communication style with customers, and he really was good at it. And then Dennis Conrad, he, kind of out of the box, think about things a little bit differently. And so my first year, I'd been in the business about a year, and I was selected to be able to go to what's now, G2E, but it was World Gaming back in the day. And it was one of those, I went to every session that I could. I went up and down every row. I talked to every single person. I mean, I busted my tail at the conference, but that year, for whatever reason, both John Romero and Dennis Conrad presented, I think they presented 2 or 3 times each. And what I was able to sit in on the sessions, and what I heard, I couldn't tell you what they told me, except that it reinforced that I was thinking about things the right way. And then I was kind of bummed at the time. I was like, hitting my head against the wall, and I didn't know if I was going to make it. And coming out of that, I was revitalized, and I went back, and I really just threw myself into my job, and I with confidence that, okay, I may not know the answer, but my approach is right, and I'm going to get to the answer. Well, now, of course, I disagree with about 2/3 of what Dennis says, and we have a fun dialogue about it. But I credit him a lot to getting me through that rough stretch, and then a GM allowed me to make mistakes. Steve Penhall, him and I we worked together at Ute Mountain Casino where I first started. Then he eventually got the GM role at Sandia in Albuquerque, and I was able to join him there. And that was a career changing moment because we were in a 10 at the time, and we were building this brand new, beautiful facility across the street that is there now. And it's absolutely one of the most beautiful properties anywhere. And he brought me in. And so then they didn't have casino marketing. So I had to start it from scratch. So it really was life changing in that now if it existed, it's because I put it together. And if it was wrong, it's because I put it together. So, a lot of ability to try and experiment, but also, react and make change. So it was just one of the, it was about a 4-year run, but it was a PhD in casino marketing because everything had to start. And Steve was there to support me and help, fight the battles with me with ownership whenever things weren't going the way when they would question why we were doing certain things. He had my back, and really just an amazing experience. And I owe Steve a great deal of gratitude for that.
Thanks for sharing that. And I love how you brought up, Romero and Dennis Conrad at a conference. And I remember G2E back in those days where it was significantly smaller and more intimate. Today, that conference has grown dramatically. Wow. It's massive. The floor is massive. This year was I think an all-time record for attendance, and there was just tons of people. I mean, I recall this year seeing the line to get in on day one was, wow. I just couldn't believe how many people were there. So talking a little bit, I just want to spin off of that for a moment, because conferences are overwhelming for some folks who have either not been to them before, or maybe perhaps they haven't been to many of them. When you go to conferences today, or maybe I love how you shared what you did back then, or anything along the way, tips for people that that go to conferences, how do you maximize your investment? Because it's an investment in dollars to go there. It's also an investment of time. And I find that sometimes I run out of time, right? That you can't do everything. So how do you prioritize going to these things, and sort of how do you, if you were to offer advice to people, what would you say?
Yeah, it's certainly for someone that's just getting started. The work we work our tails off getting ready for the conference. From an educational standpoint, we identify the tracks that we think are important. Obviously, personally for me, or for someone on my team that's coming, and put a lot of emphasis on the prep work, and then also the vendor relationships. Obviously, at this point, we you and I, we have a lot of those, but early on, I didn't. And so I would take a look at the catalog of who was coming in, and I would go through and I would try to find people that I thought were interesting, that maybe, I mean, it's easy to find slot machines. I mean, they dominate the floor, but there was, a time, I don't know if you ever used this or if you remember, there was a little company called Sport Game. And I found him on the last day of the conference over on the side somewhere. And it was literally me going up and down the aisles. Is there anything else? Because my feet are sore. I'm tired. I'm talked out. And I ran across these guys, and they had this really interesting tool that I ended up getting, and I became like their poster child because I figured out all the other things I could do with that technology. And and Dane and Sheila became really good friends, and I ended up utilizing that product in numerous places. So so the advice that I would say is, number one, do the work in advance, get ready for it. Everybody wants to go to the parties. Okay, I get it, but if answer the call in the morning, do the parties, have fun, and enjoy your time there. That's the best part about this business, is meeting people that you later on, will continue to have relationships with, and potentially if they sell products, you'll learn more about them and get more familiar with them. Enjoy those events, but don't lose sight of the fact it's work. And you're there to perform, and the owners have an expectation. They've made an investment in you and allowing you to go, and you're paying for everything if you get the full package, but airfare, hotel, food, all of those things. So do the work and meet people. I guess that's of all of it, the most important piece is develop your networks, and identify people that can help you in your advancement, and get to know them and stay in touch with them. And I think the area where people make the biggest mistake is you come back, you got a stack of business cards an inch thick. How many people take the time to go back through those cards and follow up with the people, especially with those that maybe can't help you today?
Yeah.
But, down the road, these people, they're influencers. They're someone, you had an exchange with them, and it just allows you to build your network. And ultimately in this business, that's what you want, is you want that network.
Yeah, you make a great point. The parties are the parties, but I like to approach the parties. It's a great place to do the rounds, right? So I don't stay in one spot. That's sort of my approach. Is I go to a party, and there's two things I do. One is I say hello and strengthen relationships I already have,
Yep.
and then the second is I meet new people, right? So
Yep.
it's kind of a combination of the two. The great thing about conferences is it gets a lot of people that together. So you want to continue to keep that relationship alive and learn about what they've got going on. People change in their careers and positions, and it's always great to know if you know them already, they already know you and what you're all about. Maybe they're working for an organization that can provide value to you that you didn't know about. But that relationship is how you get introduced to that value. And then I always try to if I come back from a conference and I don't meet new people, I won't go back to that conference, right?
Yeah.
Because to your point, the strength of relationships is so key. And sometimes it takes years to materialize, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
and it's an investment in people that can help benefit the organization that you're at. But I love your approach of preparing. I think that's to your point. I think that's one that people don't do enough of, is to actually sit down and ask the question, why are we going, and what are my top 3 objectives?
Yeah, I actually have meetings with my staff in advance, and I ask for their plan. I want to see your G2E plan, and if they don't have a plan, they're off the list.
Yeah.
And and yeah, I have a lot of people at this property who this is the only casino they've ever worked at. It's probably the only one they'll ever work at. They're from here. They're homegrown. Some of them have been with our company for almost 20 years and had never been to G2E in manager level. And I need them to see the rest of the industry. I want them. They need to experience Las Vegas. They need to know what it's like to check in at a hotel in Las Vegas and be treated, because they do a great job with it, and understand what a customer expectation is going to be that comes here that's accustomed to that. And just to see, it's the Super Bowl of casinos. They're everywhere. You gotta be a part of that. And when you get to G2E, I think it really opens a lot of people's eyes as to just how big this industry is. And it's amazing with first time walking in with someone that has not been there before and watching their faces like, holy crap, this is amazing. And so, I really want to make sure that the people that we send are going to understand the expectation when they get selected to go. And then I have follow-up meetings when we get back. And it's, I don't ask them to write a lot of people, you write a recap of every conference. I trust my people. They're going to do what I told them to do. I just want to have a conversation with them and find out, tell me what you learned. And it usually starts with, whoa, that was incredible. And the other part of it too, I think is really important, is I send a number of, managers, and it's really important to me that they spend time together. And so I ended up, with, my F&B, my beverage manager hanging out with my IT manager, and they get to know each other.
Yeah.
And they this year I had a brand new beverage manager, had never even been to Las Vegas, never been in casinos until now. But he's incredible. With my IT manager who'd been to G2E before, and he has a few contacts. So watching the two of them, like, hey, Face will introduce, Cameron to this person, and then they talk, and then just watching both of them, come together was really a treat. And so the follow up, it has a lot of benefits long term, because they're going to be able to, their relationship is tighter, and that's really an important part of it too.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the team building component. And also it opens their eyes, if they're cross-functional in different departments, they will now appreciate the work and the knowledge that goes on. IT is one of those underappreciated departments. No one cares about IT until systems don't work, right?
Yeah.
When systems are working, no one goes around going, hey, thanks for email working today, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's only when email breaks.
And you're
Yeah.
and you're so lucky. I mean, Tony, with you, and I have John. We have two of the best in the business on our team. So watching the two of them interact, and John being able to bring, Face, his guy, with him and introduce more people. I mean, it truly is just extraordinary to watch happen.
It is. And, so sort of like a sidebar to all that, we're talking about talent and talent development. How do you spot potential? What kind of catches your eyes when you see a potential superstar team member out there? What kind of characteristics or items that you observe that you could share?
You know, I wish I could bottle. For whatever reason, I have always had great success building teams, and normally taking talent that was already there and working through and equipping them, coaching them, and developing them. And obviously, at a place like this, that's super important, because we're very rural. We're not getting a lot of inbound talent, so we have to take advantage of what we have here. But I think for me, the first thing I always look for is integrity. Is this someone I can truly trust? If I invest my time into this person, will this person take advantage of that time and use it? Or are they someone that's going to do the lip service and move on and not truly, do it? So I look at integrity to start with, and then I look at effort. I will take someone with no talent, with no experience, that's willing to listen, learn, be coached, make sure they're coachable, and put the effort in. And that really is the key to me. If they'll put the effort in, I'll invest the amount of time it's going to take. And then I guess the final step is the willingness. You know, not everyone is comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I have a unique training style. If you ask my team around here, it's like, we'll figure out how to do it. I trust you. You're smart. This is, here's our objective. If I were doing it, these are probably the things that I would really focus on, but I'm not doing it. You are. So I need you to look at the problem. You're smart. Try some, figure it out, and don't mess it up. No.
Talking about those types. I love the effort comment and technical skills. We could teach those, right? I mean, there's methods already to teach technical skills, but having that sort of innate talent inside and desire to go forward and to progress or to accept challenges and be willing to. I love what you said about feeling uncomfortable. You got to feel uncomfortable. That's how you grow, right?
Absolutely.
You don't grow through comfort.
Yeah, and I heard a long time ago too. Hire for attitude, train for aptitude.
Yeah.
And and that it's a simple thing, but it says so much. If someone's got the right attitude, and by that, they can be comfortable being uncomfortable. They're coachable. They're willing to put the effort in. Their desire to improve themselves, improve the property, which will ultimately improve themselves. I'll go to battle with that guy every day. And my grandpa used to say, he was a World War II veteran, and one of his comments was always, I want to be around people that I want in my foxhole with me. And that says a lot. And those simple little nuggets that you file away, that but they're the things that the foundation that builds your your character and ultimately your approach to things. And so, like I said, we've had great success here. I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
Recently, so I got here almost 5 years ago. So we were in a managers meeting recently, and obviously we have gone through so much growth, similar to what you guys have gone through, to the point where we're a different organization than we were when I arrived. And so we were in a managers meeting recently, and I'd shared with them some training stuff, and I'm asking for their input on it, going around the room, and we were having just this great exchange with everyone. And it dawned on me as I'm looking at, I have a bunch of people that are in new positions. No wonder we're having some of these pains, right? So got around the room, it came back to me, and I was like, okay, I want to try something here. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm really interested to see how you guys react to this. I said, if you are in the position at this company you were in when I arrived, if you're not in the position you were in when I arrived, I want you to stand up. One person was still sitting down.
Wow.
This blew my mind. I was like, wow. So I was like, if you've been in your current position with us 6 months or less, sit down. Good number of people sat down. Less than a year, now 2/3 of the room is sat down. Less than 2 years, there were 3 people that were still standing.
Wow.
And that really tells you what we've gone through here. And the fact, but I look around that room now, and we have people that are in the right spots, and none of them were ready. I wasn't ready for this job when I got it. Were you ready for that job when you got it? We had spent our life doing things we were not prepared for and getting it done. And talk about being uncomfortable, but we also knew that we would get it done. We had the confidence that we'd been doing this long enough. We had enough success, but that room, not everyone had the same number of successes that we've had. So it was a matter of reinforcing for our team here that it's going to be okay. You're in the right place at the right time. What a great opportunity if you will grab a hold of it and just be a part of it. And so that was just a kind of a mind blowing experience for me to see that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. What a great exercise, and for people out there that are in growth mode or in a transition at their property, that's really something to pause and really reflect upon. Sort of what's the makeup of the team and how do you strengthen that? Something I want to tug on a little bit here because I think it ties into what we've been chatting about is you have experience in several different markets, right? I think you've been in Chicagoland, you've been in Arizona, Southern California, Northern California. You mentioned New Mexico. That's a great, diverse set of markets. And how does that, help formulate sort of, your career, or how does that help shape the way you approach the business and having exposure? You talked about there's some people that have never left their property and getting them exposed at a conference, but here you're getting exposed by getting into the markets and fighting different conditions and different competitive sets and different laws and regulations and such. Talk a little bit about that. I think that's fascinating, and I think the audience may want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, and add Oklahoma to the mix,
Yeah. Oh, Oklahoma. Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
Wisconsin, it's been, yeah, well, and I think it even goes back before that. I actually went to 20 different schools growing up.
Wow.
So I was always the new kid. And so I don't know, just kind of got used to, not having friends and not getting along with, I got used to, having to, get into a place and figure out how it worked. And, I grew up on around a farm with, my grandparents were farmers, and my grandpa was always having to tinker with his equipment, always working on it. And so I was always out there with him helping, tinker on it. So I think, kind of foundationally, I learned that early on. And so when I would come to a new property in a new market, I'm still trying to figure out how to get to work,
Yeah.
because I don't know the area.
Yeah.
But what I really figured out is every property, no two properties are the same. You've got to find out the inner workings of where you're at. No two markets are the same. There are very few markets in the world more competitive than Albuquerque, New Mexico. Every property is basically the same age, similar entertainment venues. They all have very aggressive promotional calendars, very aggressive entertainment calendars. Yeah, I mean, and it's not growing exponentially. It's, if you're growing, it's at someone else's expense. And so you go into a market like that, you learn right away that if you let your foot off the gas, someone else is going to, scoop in and take what you left behind. And so I learned, through that experience that you can never let your guard down. You've got to have that foot on the gas all the time. And then you also have to make sure that while you're going fast, you also have to review what you're doing. And I think that's a piece that so many people miss out on. You work so hard to put these things together and you roll them out. And, speaking primarily from the marketing standpoint, but I think it applies everywhere. All this work to make something happen, and then you roll it out, and then it's over and you're on to the next thing. And you don't take the time to look back and say, well, did it work? What could we have done better? And so I kind of adopted the attitude of, I'm going to find the 2 or 3 things that we could have done better on everything. And I'm going to roll that into the next one. And then as you get to the new property, now you've got all your list of things that you want to look at, you want to, identify, want to understand. And then, but then the nuances of that, that market are different. So you got to learn the market, you got to learn the company, you got to learn your customers and find out what motivates them. And no two customer sets are the same. I mean, my group here is, obviously going to be a lot different than yours, but even within markets, some properties attract a certain type of customer, and there's some of those I really don't want to attract. They're better off where they're at. And
Yeah.
so, and people are like, what do you mean? Every customer is important. Well, yeah, but some are more valuable. So, It's a constant. I think at the end of the day, it's constant learning, and you have to stay focused on learning. And and I utilize that here. I actually have a reading list, and I tell my team, it's like, so if your doctor graduated from medical school in 1980 and they haven't picked up a periodical since they graduated from medical school, how good are you going to feel about going in and having them cut you open and work on you? You know,
Yeah.
things have changed. Okay. Well, our industry is changing every day. So you've got to stay current. You got to continue reading. You got to continue focused on self improvement. And in order, when you do that, then I think it makes you much more adaptable when you get somewhere else because you have a wider range of skills that you've acquired that you can tap into more quickly without having to start from scratch every time.
So you bring up, you touch a little bit on a point here. The industry has changed so much over the last, 10 years. What sort of, adaptations and significant changes that you have made to adapt your strategies to these changes? How have you grown, and anything in particular you want to share that has worked for you more than others?
Well, I think the first thing is I'm glad I got out of marketing when I did because it is moving at hyper speed right now, changing so aggressively. But you know the other part about it, even though technology is growing and expanding as fast as it is, the casino land is actually kind of behind a lot of other industries. I mean, way behind. So taking a look at technology and how it's being used in other industries is really key for us right now because it kind of gives us the blueprint of where we can take the next round of technology. Digital wallet, for example. A big, starting to really get central in this business. High focus on that space. Well, digital wallet's been around. I mean, I never pay at Starbucks. I use my app. This isn't brand new, but it is a change for us. So, how is it being used in other areas? How can we, focus on that? The technology in the games themselves. Holy crap! They're, the evolution. I mean, now, you know, this last year at G2E was kind of a watershed moment in that, okay, everybody has now got their link games, their tall games, let me see your link game, your tall game, your Dragon Link spinoff, let me see all those. Okay, now what's next? And then they take you behind the curtain and like, yeah, check this out. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's going to be interesting. I don't know. I would have invested that much in that space, but that's interesting. We'll see how our customers like it. So I think it's, from the marketing side, just the way you can communicate with your guests now, it is so transformational. Almost we've always aspire for that one-to-one relationship with a customer. I want to offer the exact thing that will motivate this guest at exactly the moment they'll be motivated. And we have come so close to being able to do that now, and utilizing multiple methodology to communicate with them. It's almost like you have continuous communication with your guests now, which is simply unbelievable to think about.
Yeah, and I think with today's world, everyone else is communicating with them as well. Other
Yeah,
brands and other industries, and my God, it used to be that there was a guide that said, you shouldn't email someone more than X times in a week, right?
yeah,
And now I tell you what, I'm part of, I download an app and, sign up, it requires you to give your email to activate
yeah,
the full feature set. Next thing you know, I'm getting like literally 3 or 4 emails a day
yeah,
sometimes. And that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, big brands are doing that even. So,
yeah.
but what a change in mindset and sort of the rules. And I guess people out there just are not as sensitive to that as they used to be, right?
And those emails are a lot more interesting to you
Yeah.
because now they're utilizing all of your other behavior to craft a message so that you're not annoyed by it because it's actually relevant. Like, well, how did you know I was looking to buy that for my wife? Oh yeah, because I was on Google looking for it, and suddenly Costco has this on sale,
Right.
or whoever, and it's just become so. I mean, intuitive is kind of an overused word, but it has gotten to the point where it's spooky, and I don't know if it's spooky or intuitive, but it's somewhere in there. Yet on the casino side, I can I've got in my entire career I can probably I think I've got less than 10 messages from customers saying, don't send me so much mail.
Yeah.
Quit sending me offers.
Right.
They open casino mail. They
Right.
open emails, and I think that, to your point earlier, we were conditioned early on to pull back on that. And if we had listened to that, we never would have advanced it. Yet, when I was in Chicago, it was very competitive and a huge market. A lot of revenue in that state, high tax state. So we were fighting for every dollar of revenue we could get. I had people that were probably getting 20 pieces of mail a month.
Wow.
And none
Yeah.
of them came in and said, don't send me any more mail. They came in and they played. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. It's the end of the year, so it's time to reflect. A lot of people reflect at this time of the year. What are you most proud of for this past 2022, this past year? What are you most proud of that you've accomplished as a general manager?
well, I think it goes back to what the story I was telling you about earlier, getting my people in the right spot in the organization. And, that really has been an effort, focused effort this year, is to get the company right sized and right peopled. It's not a real good phrase, but get everybody in the right seat on the bus, as Malcolm Gladwell would say, and really stay focused on that, and then the outcome of us doing that. Second best year we've ever had. Last year was off the charts, and thanks to the U.S. government, we're paying for it now. But everyone had money, and they had limited options. We were open, other people weren't. And so we benefited from that. This year, it's been a lot more challenging, but we got through COVID together. We got through construction, and I don't advise anyone ever decides to do construction in the middle of a pandemic. I know you experienced that as well. Not a lot of fun. But we got through it. We got everything open finally, and we spent this year. And I told the team at the beginning of the year, our objective this year is to figure out how we have to do it, and just figure it out this year, and that'll set the tone for the next 5 years. And we did it with our brewery and our distillery. Like, we just got to figure out how to make this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was an enterprise I forgot to mention earlier. Yeah, we built a brewery and a distillery, and now we're selling stuff, and created our own whiskeys, and now we're got a group of people that are outside that are looking to buy it, but buy our product. But we just want to figure out how do we do this, because we didn't know, and now we know how to do it. Now we got to figure out, now how are we going to sell it, and how are we going to make enough of it that we can make all that we can sell, because there's a huge market out there for it. And so really this year was all about, we just got to figure out how to do it, and who's going to do it. And we're there now, which makes me super excited about what's coming up next year and beyond. And the team that we've built here is, I mean, they're just absolutely amazing. And so I'm so, from a reflection standpoint, I'm just so proud of what we've assembled, and it's really exciting.
That's fantastic. What's your outlook for 23? What do you see for next year?
Look out, world! Here we come. And we didn't open up all of our outlets. I mean, literally until last month, we finally got to where we were able to open 7 days a week in all of our food outlets. So with that in place now, it just opens up so many doors for us to be more aggressive in how we can utilize that space. And I really feel that now that we've got everything dialed in, it's going to be a phenomenal year for us. And, finally got some clarity on, on how we can distribute our spirits. And now that we have that clarity, uh, look out, Obsidian Spirits is, coming to a tribal casino near you, I'm sure. And, just being able to get that in motion and get the team, the tools they need to be able to do their jobs. 23, I think, is just going to be a watershed moment for us and a real transition into that next level.
Yeah, with that 7,500 seat outdoor amphitheater, all those new amenities that you now are cranking up to full speed. I mean, that's just going to complement each other. Hidden value that wasn't there before is now going to be realized. So that's fantastic. I can't wait to come up there and see it. I need to see it. I think I've only seen a third of what you were talking about, actually.
Yeah, so probably.
the more you talk about stuff, I'm like, I think that was under construction, or he was pointing.
Yeah, probably
to a spot there. That's fantastic. Yeah, I want to get a little personal on some things here. Personal routine that benefits you that you would recommend to others.
I think the word is really what starts. You have to have a routine, and you have to be consistent. And so, for me, the one thing I learned about this business, the only thing I can actually control about my day is what time I show up. After I get here, who knows what's going to happen? I'm going to get called to council. I'm going to, something's going to break. I've got to go look at, or, who knows what manner of crazy you're going to deal with. So what I started doing is, I try to do my exercising in the morning. I need to get a little better at that, but I set aside about a half hour, 45 minutes in the morning. I do that. And then I focus on email, all the stuff that came in overnight. I do it from home. I knock it out. So I have an idea of what I'm going to be dealing with, what the day's going to be looking like. And I usually I don't come in until about 9:30 in the morning because I want to stick around later in the evening. I want to see second shift and see, that's when the action happens. And it doesn't do me any good to leave at 5 in the afternoon. I mean, our day is just getting started. So I usually stick, I come in a little later and I stay later because I want to interact with that swing group and with our customers and so forth. And so that's kind of my routine. And I try to stay consistent with it, all the time. And then, about every other weekend, I try to spend at least one day of the weekend on the property for a period of time, because again, that's when all the action happens. But more than anything else, I'm looking for the tools that our team needs to do their jobs. They're better at it than I am, but what don't they have that can make their job better? And why do I have a line at this ATM and I don't have a line over there? Well, maybe I need to move that ATM over there so I have two, because that's where everybody migrates to. Simple things like that you don't see if you're not here when the volumes peak.
Yeah, certainly, for sure. What about sources of inspiration outside of the casino industry? Who do you look at? Is there any particular individual or company that you look at?
I think I derive a lot of that. Just, I mentioned about reading and and then, you find an author that you like and you start following their podcast and I think of, Simon Sinek, and, he now does his little 2 to 3 minute, blurbs that, I follow a lot. They pop up. I, watch a lot of podcasts just to, be entertained and I don't know. I'm weird in that, to me, learning something is entertaining. So,
Yeah.
I don't spend a lot of time on nonsense. I just enjoy the learning, and I'm motivated by talent, and I enjoy. I get inspired when I hear something that I had not thought of before that I can maybe apply in some way or try. And so that's kind of where I derive a lot of that from.
Well, what do you do when you're not working? So what do you like to do for fun?
You know, now I'm an empty nester, so my boys are out, doing their thing and having success in their life and in their careers. So my wife and I do a lot of travel, um, and we enjoy trying new things and going to new places. We've recently got to go out on a maiden voyage of a cruise ship, and so we got to fly into a hurricane and get on a brand new ship and go check it out. And so I do a lot of travel. Obviously, a lot of my when I'm not here, I'm at home in Las Vegas. So we do a lot of shows and just go out to eat a lot in Las Vegas because it's so amazing there to do that. So just I don't sit around a lot. I like doing, learning, trying.
For sure. For sure. I love traveling myself. Never wanted to go into a hurricane though. So
Yeah.
I'll reserve that one for you, Steve.
It's long. That was, Norwegian. Put on your website that everything's okay. I'm trying to figure out, I'm questioning my sanity here, but I'm looking at the reports. I'm like, well, it's raining, but I don't know.
Yeah. Oh man. I give it up to you. I wouldn't have gotten on the plane. Oh man. Favorite quote and why?
Oh my goodness. Well, I talked about, making people comfortable being uncomfortable. That's one that is really driven me, and it starts with why. Um, and I use, suffering is, life is difficult, suffering is optional. I use that a lot with my team, that, life is more difficult if you're stupid. That's another football coach quote that has stuck with me. I heard that a lot, so you're having a difficult time, I see, um, but I'm kind of a quote guy. I, I, I literally, they call them Neelyisms here. And one day they came out with a bingo card, like how many of these is Steve going to use in this particular meeting? And and I just, but to me, it's things like that. It's keeping it simple. Life is complicated. If you simplify things to a point where it's easy to understand and easy to relate to, then you're going to get acceptance more than you will if it's just so proverbial that, like, oh my God, what's that really say? That's deep. I got to think about this. And you need that from time to time as well. But for me, it's I think I'm conditioned, having been in marketing all these years, is like you gotta get to the point and move on because there's 5 other things that are waiting on you to get to. So you
That's
just
right.
you know compact it down to a least common denominator, get it to the where it needs to go, and communicate clearly so everyone knows, and collaborate and communicate and go.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're coming to the end of the show here, and I'm going to ask you a question we ask all of our guests here on the show, which is 3 tips anyone could start applying today to help their career get to the next level.
First and foremost, be honest with yourself. Know who you are and be comfortable with that being. And so many times we don't do something because we're not sure. Okay, if you're comfortable with yourself, then you're going to be okay trying something because it may not work. And so get comfortable, surround yourself with the best possible people you can, whether it's as a mentor, a support staff, friend, colleague. Um, Invest in relationships and expand your network and know the people that truly have your back as you go through life, and then celebrate the successes. And for me, that is a hard. I was an athlete, and I hated losing more than I enjoyed winning, and that has been a lot of therapy to get comfortable with. It's okay to say you did a good job. But the problem is if you're not conditioned to celebrate the win, then your teams, when you get into a leadership role, if you don't celebrate it with them, then they feel unappreciated. Like you didn't acknowledge that their efforts resulted in something great. I was always, yeah, I knew it'd be good. That's what we do here,
Yeah.
and move on. But when you have to learn to celebrate those wins, if not for you, for those that put all that effort into making it a success. And once you've done that, then you're able to watch them grow. And it's not about you, it's about them. And I think that's, really been life change for me, just recognizing how important it is that you just acknowledge that you did get something done and recognize the people that help you get there.
I love it. I love it. So self-awareness, surround yourself with great people, and celebrating the wins. What a great set of three tips for anyone to succeed in life and in their career. So Steve, it's been a pleasure seeing you. I mean, as long as I've known you, I still learn some things today from you. And I'm sure those that are listening into the show today will learn a lot as well. So I just want to thank you for joining us on the show, and look forward to catching up with you real soon.
Hey, I appreciate the invite, man. Like you said, we've known each other a long time, and it's so flattered. I'm flattered that you would think of me to be a part of this. So thank you very much.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you. Have a great week. Okay.
You too.
Check out more episodes on nextlevelcasinocareers.com.